was exciting, right? I know, we're in the entertainment business, so, we want to entertain in any way possible. It's kind of hard right now to reflect. It's a shorter week, so we're kind of a day ahead to kind of reflect back from last week's game is a little bit harder right now, but nonetheless, it was quite a game, and the way it finished, was almost surreal. So you can ask a lot of questions about it. I don't remember a whole lot about it. The last 2.5 minutes seemed like an eternity, but we found a way, and I give them credit. It's a good football team that hasn't won a bunch of games this year, but really played well and battled us down to the very end. And so I think we learned some more from it. I think our guys recognize the way everybody plays them and the way that they got to continue to push and fight, and whatever it's going to take, we're going to have to keep fighting. We've won more games like that probably in the year 2 and year 3 that came down really to the wire, and you had to make some really big plays. Last year, this year, maybe not as many, so sometimes it gets a little bit frustrating. But I think that's again another character builder and a way we got to continue to grow. But the hard thing is then you kind of try to celebrate a little bit, and then you got to kind of go real quick and get back into things. And with a Friday game, you kind of start back over really fast. But try to remind them there's 3 guaranteed weeks left in this season. November is for contenders, and you'll see it all across college football. The teams that are getting better, the teams that can take November and really use it in a positive way, wherever they are as a football team, whether they're 9-0 like us or South Florida that hasn't won a bunch of games, but you can really look at them and say, boy, they're getting better. And obviously last week was one of those ones against Houston that you kind of recognized this football team from where they were in week 1, 2, and 3 to where they are in the last 2 weeks. To me, it's a completely different football team, and that's what we have to get prepared for. That's what we got to be ready for, and in a little bit quicker way. So traveling in a short week makes it even more difficult. So wasn't a whole lot of time to, I don't want to say celebrate the victory, because you got to enjoy those things. Wasn't a whole lot of time to even reflect. You got to find the ways to grow from it, and then you got to be able to move forward. So quick week. We'll load up on Thursday and head to South Florida for a Friday night game.
I passed him in the hallway. I didn't ask him. I'll ask you. Any update on Jerome Floyd's status?
You passed him in the hallway.
I did.
So he's here.
He's here. He's alive.
He's alive. No, I don't know. We'll today's a big day for practice, and I think I told this to the guys on Sunday. Every team has injuries, especially in week 10, 11. Every team does. Every team has guys that are dinged up. Every team has guys that might not practice a ton during a week in week 11. Week 1, 2, 3, and 4, that really worries you. Not that you don't want your guys out there at practice, but there's a lot of things that in week 11 you got to kind of take care of some guys. Darian Beavers is a guy that's played a lot of football, and Brian Cook and guys on defense that played a lot of football, and you do your normal Tuesday, Wednesday practice where you're out there and it's a grind and a bloody Tuesday, and you're doing inside drill, and you're kind of like, okay, now we got to be a little bit smarter in week 11 with some of these guys that have played 600 snaps of football already this year, and Jerome's one of those. So I'm not overly concerned. The big deal is, are they mature enough to really be able to do the things they need to do to handle the things mentally, based on can they go full go in every rep on a Tuesday and a Wednesday practice.
When you went back and watched, were you surprised at how much Tulsa kept running even late when they're down by a couple scores?
No, I think that obviously they stuck with their plan, and in some ways we allowed them to do that on both sides of the ball. We allowed them to get some of those runs that felt like they were continue to keep the momentum, and then we allowed them to continue to do that by maybe not in some ways putting them away. You get up 16 points in the start of the second half, and you don't find a way to put someone away. So as you look back at it, it was the right move for them, and in our minds sometimes we're looking at it like, okay, they're going to throw it, and they didn't. So it was a good plan for them on their side, but when it came down to it, we found a way to stop the run, and especially on the goal line.
You mentioned after the game Saturday, like some adjustments and schematic changes that would be made. in the run game. I assume you don't want to tell us what those are, but do you feel like you learned what those were?
No,
Or what they needed?
the game was played different last week too, and even the way that they were blocking it. So I think that some of those things just added up. You know, it wasn't like, as I went back and looked at it, it wasn't like we were completely off and misfit and out of positions and things like that. You know, and sometimes we got, you know, I want to say hell, but we got blocked. And we didn't get off of blocks. And when we did get off of blocks, you know, there was too much space, and guys made some pretty big plays. And so it's more critique, and it's more, you know, fundamentally sound things, along with giving our guys some more opportunities and some freedoms. You know, I think that's where we felt like, what I felt like as we got and watched the game, that, you know, we asked our guys to kind of do something that maybe they're not as best at doing, and just sitting there stagnant, you know, trying to play and lock out a guy at 6'6", 345 pounds to get off and make a play where, you know, we're a little bit better on edges. We're a little bit better making sure those guys, you know, have a little bit more freedom, and that's probably more than anything what I don't feel like we did a good enough job of.
What does that mean, playing on edges?
What's that?
What does that mean, playing on edges?
You gotta be a football guy to understand
That's
that.
what I'm
I mean,
asking a
it's-
football guy.
Playing on an edge. I mean, I don't know. To explain what do you think it means?
So like a mental edge?
No. An edge means making sure you're not dead on the center of some guy. You know, the problem gets into sometimes in football is you get into this one-on-one battle when the reality is you forget about defensively that the ball is the issue. So all of a sudden I get into a one-on-one battle, I let my emotions take over and say, I'm gonna go get this guy, and all of a sudden I get into a one-on-one battle and I'm trying to show that I'm stronger and tougher than him. But the reality, the game of football is about the ball. And so I think we were not getting on edge. We were in a battle, head up on a guy, and not being able to get off to actually make the play when needed. And, you know, that's where I think we, you know, got to do a better job, both, you know, schematically in some ways, but also emotionally in other ways. You know, the game of football is played with a ball. It's not, you know, one-on-one, mano-a-mano. There's opportunities for that, but really, you know, that's just a little part of really making sure that the ball is the biggest issue.
Darian really emphasized on this the defense played the best with their back on the wall. We had 8 snaps or so, maybe, after watching back. What do you say about that defense in the last 2 drives there, starting at the 2?
That's, you know, that's what you go out of it really liking about, you know, the weekend of Saturday. And a lot of those situations there in the last 8 snaps were things that you weren't, you know, hadn't done a whole lot of. You know, all last year we had 0 snaps of goal line defense. Going into this game, I think we've had 1 snap of goal line defense. We ended up in 7 snaps. You know, over the last 5 years, we've averaged 8 snaps of goal line in the whole season, and in that game you have 7. So if you can imagine how much you practice it, it's not a whole lot. You know, it's a Sunday thing, and it's a lineup on a Thursday thing, and you're never going to be able to give them everything. You know, hey, this is what you're going to see, this is what you're going to get, because, you know, you only got 4 or 5 snaps, you know, that you ever are going to really work on. So what it showed was they had the ability to say, not over worry about exactly what was happening, not worried about being perfect when you get down there inside that 2-3 yard line. Now it becomes, hey, who can win the one-on-one battles? Who can, you know, make a play when it comes their way? And to me, that's what they did. I think you got out of the mindset of, okay, how do I be perfect? And okay, in this formation, they had that. No, it comes down, hey, there's a lot of things we haven't seen. We got to just go. And that's when I think they're best, and that's what they showed on Saturday.
Use the phrase Luke Saturday. You didn't want the everything outside of the program to steal the joy of your team. What do you mean by that?
Well, when you try to live up to an expectation that somebody else has for you, you know, no matter what, whether you're a coach, whether you're a player, whether you're a team, you know, and nobody can live up to what other people want them to be. You know, this team, this program, you know, we pride ourselves on doing things together, playing together, knowing we're all in the same boat. You know, everybody's got different pressures, different pulls at them, but, you know, when it comes down to it, you know, there's one objective, and it's win a football game. And, you know, I'm as bad as anybody else at, you know, letting the outside, not the outside, but the expectations within your own, you know, heart, mind of how you should look to override the ultimate goal of winning the game. So there's a balance there that we all got to have, that, you know, that fuels you to get better, but you can't allow, you know, our own minds to steal the joy of what really comes along with it. And I said it to the guys in the locker room after the game. I mean, as a player, looking back, the thing that I miss more than anything is even those last 20, 25 minutes after a game of just sitting in the locker, you know, with your buddies and the guys you just fought with. You know, win or loss at times, you know, because you know darn well those are the guys that are in the same things that you're in, you know. Those are the things to me that you forget and you really miss when it's all said and done. You know, there's a lot of things you won't miss, obviously, and even think about the games, but just to reflect back on the locker room is so special, you know, and that energy and those things that you do together are so special that, you know, I don't want somebody to steal that from any of our guys or our coaches as well.
With these kind of starts the season being this deep into the season undefeated, it's rare. Do you think your guys are enjoying it, or do you think that kind of stuff can be frustrating to kind of end the year?
No, I think I would imagine that they do a better job at enjoying it than some of us, myself being one of them, just because they have other things in their life. Hopefully they get to go out to class, they get to have some other things, and so they get to feel it a little bit more. I think 18 to 22-year-olds have a shorter memory. You know, they can have something happen and then they can get rid of it and move on. And you know, us as coaches dwell upon things probably too long. But I don't know. I keep reminding them that that's what we have to be able to do. You know, because that's the only way you can relax your mind, free your mind, and allow yourself to, you know, recover. But it's there's a lot of individual based on how they handle those kinds of things.
You're used to being a part of winning teams. You've done your time at Ohio State, even as a coach and as a player. How much do you pull from that time to help this team here, you know, develop and figure out how to handle all the expectations?
Well, I think probably what I'm learning as a head coach is nothing is the same. Every year is so different. Every dynamics of your team. I mean, you could say we had X amount of guys coming back this year. It's different. It's still, I mean, just the dynamics of everything and how you do things. And I was reminded by that of Coach Trussell was in town. The real Coach Trussell was in town for the president's meetings here on campus. And he stopped in yesterday to see me, and you know, just to be able to, you know, talk to him for a few minutes and reflect, and reminded me, you know, of a lot of those things that, you know, every year is different. I know you can rely upon the experiences that you've had in the past, but, you know, whether it's 9-0 one year and 9-0 another year, there's every year is different, and you got to have a grasp on, you know, your team, your guys, and you got to be able to adapt and adjust.
We've asked you about Ahmad before, but it feels like teams aren't even looking his direction. What are you telling him to make sure he doesn't get bored or complacent?
It's going to happen. There's going to be those opportunities and those times, and you know, you got to make sure that you're ready when it is. And you know, beginning of the year, I kind of brought it up to him that, you know, my senior year of college, we had a corner named Sean Springs who had 0 interceptions. I'm sure he had some batted down balls, but probably statistically had about nothing. And he ended up being the defensive player of the year in the league because people recognized what he did and maybe as good as he was, and they didn't challenge him a ton. And you know, at that position in particular, that's why it's really difficult, maturity-wise, and being able to handle it. It takes a unique individual. So, you know, going into the year, I didn't know it, but I just kind of tried to always prep him about those things can happen. You know, especially sometimes the better you play, but you can't let up, you can't lighten up, because when you do, then there's when the issues are going to come.
He had that corner blitz sack. Is that one of those things like every once in a while you have to feed him just to like?
You got to find different ways, and you know, sometimes you see them fighting out there to switch sides if they know it was coming. But you know, Kobe sometimes is maybe I would say off the top, he might be a better blitzer. I know I might get some flack for that, but you know, I guess Ahmad is trying to prove him wrong.
With the secondary being so strong and good, I'm just looking on the outside looking in, teams are trying to run the ball way more. I feel like this year is that kind of frustrating to see on your end, or is it, you know, different?
No, it is what it is. I'm not saying that you know, we've played some teams that have, you know, been in some different situations. You know, whether it's a Tulane and, you know, they're obviously a quarterback is down and they had to look at it to say, hey, this is the best way we need to attack them. You know, obviously Navy is Navy. You know, last week, if you really look at, you know, even what Tulsa did in the championship game, that they ran the football and they came out in a balanced, you know, in the first couple series, and we shut them down. And I think they found a little something in a little way, and you know, they started running the football, and you know, they stuck with it. And they're probably one of those few teams that, that truly outside of the triple option guys that are as dedicated if things are working to the run as anybody.
As a former nose tackle and someone who's used to plugging up the holes and running plays, is it more frustrating for you when you see a team like Tulsa run for 300 yards?
I don't know any defensive coach that, whether he was a corner, a safety, didn't play football, if he's a defensive coach that doesn't get frustrated with people running the football. The game today is still balanced, and you got to be good on both. But there's something deep down inside that makes it difficult, when a team is running the football. But when you put defenses together, it used to always start with how do you stop the run. I think if you're really good now, you got to look at how we have a balance, and sometimes even designed from the top down in some ways. But anytime anybody's moving the football, it's frustrating, and whether it's running or throwing. But it ultimately comes down to you can look at yardage. You always look down to score, and that's the most telling stat defensively that we're going to hang our hats on. And you say 91 plays for 20 points, regardless of how that happened, it's not bad.
What impact do you think that approach from the opposing offenses is having on your offense? Probably getting 1 or 2, maybe 3 less.
We say that, but then someone brought up the stat that we haven't won the time of possession in any game this year, and I don't know. They asked me if that's that important of a stat. Well, it's always something that you've looked at, and you didn't want it lopsided, but I don't know that it was something you went in the game and said we're going to control the clock. Maybe in year 1, 2, and 3, it was more natural the way we played that we maybe controlled the clock a little bit more, but never something that I just said, okay, hey, let's focus in on one of the top things we got to do is control the clock. It's more about field position and being aggressive and taking the opportunities when we've got them.
We saw Vinny a little bit in the second half. Was Metz banged up or just trying to get Vinny mixed back in?
Well, it's nice to have him that he's back in that role, that he's back up, weight up, and feeling good about what he's doing, and to be able to roll those guys and keep them a little bit fresher. I think we're doing that better offensively. We got to do a little bit more of that defensively. So it's kind of a balance of both.
Any more questions?
Good.